our next keynote, please welcome the President of Intel, Renée James.
Guess it's afternoon, it's no longer morning. I'm going to shift gears here and talk a little bit more about technology and what's happening, and probably don't need that. We've heard a lot about disruptions. Is my mic working? Can you hear me? Okay. We've heard a lot about disruptions this morning, and historically at Intel, disruptive periods for us, we look at these transitions as opportunities. And from a technology perspective, we are right now in one of the largest disruptive times that we've seen in a couple of decades, and that is precipitated by an architectural shift in the IT industry around cloud architectures and big data. So I want to give a little bit of background about what is big data from our point of view, what are the implications, what already has happened as a result in some areas of computational science, and then what might that mean for us going forward. So big data and cloud technologies are affecting every part of the IT industry and ICT industry as we've been talking. It's not only changing the way that the IT and telecommunications industries deploy technologies, but it's changing the very nature of how we understand the human condition. We understand problems that we've been working on as industries for the better part of the last 4 decades. And I want to give you a couple of examples of the changes that are upon us. The first one that I want to talk about is the deciphering of the human genome. And the chart is really showing you the cost to decipher over the course of time from 2001 to 2014. And really what we've shown is that this breakthrough could not have been made without computational power and as well as the big data technologies. So the human DNA is a double helix structure, as you know. To map that, you have to split it and then cut it into small pieces of data that are sequenced in order to determine the base pairs. This is an enormous amount of data, and the result is a map of the genes. The concept's pretty straightforward. It creates a ton of data. You have to analyze that data to find the insights inside of it. It took 1,000 years to be able to accomplish this task, and we first did it in 1999. Before that, we didn't have the processing power available. That's certainly what we spend our lives on at Intel, is creating enough processing power to be able to have these breakthroughs. But we also didn't have the software capable to manage and find the insights. When we first sequenced the genome in 1999, it cost $70 million, or 56 million euro, to sequence the first human genome in 1999. Today, it's $1,000. And it costs 800 euros, right? So that has occurred because of the forward progress in technology and computational capability, and then the corresponding software and analytics capabilities that underpin big data. So the ability to collect, analyze, and deal with these big data sets continues to go down the cost curve. So you ask yourself, okay, so what? So you can do it faster. It takes days instead of months. You can do it cheaper. It's $1,000, so it's accessible to everybody. And the question is, what do you do with it? So we have a couple of definitions of big data just because everyone has a different point of view about what is it. I don't need to read to you, but we have 2 of them up here. At the core of big data, the thing that, from Intel's perspective, and I think from the computational sciences perspective, and other panelists may have a different point of view, the insights derived from the data is the breakthrough, not the ability to gather the data. Even though I've spent my career on gathering that data as cheap and as fast as possible, it's actually the insights and breakthroughs that come from it that are going to transform industries. And all of the discussion that came before me this morning about creating new jobs, the changes in jobs, the nature of education to be able to have those jobs, all comes from those insights and the extraction or ability to extract insights. So once you have the map of the genome, you can see how they vary from one another. And with a big enough sample, you're able to actually treat the outcome of the data, or the test results, if you will, with certain specialized drugs. And I want to give you an example of a colleague of mine. This is a real story of the person who's responsible for healthcare segment at Intel. He had been diagnosed with cancer over the course of 20 years. He had had kidney cancer, he had gone into kidney failure, he'd had a transplant, and they had said to him, basically, we're very sorry, we've done all that we can do for you. He was responsible for working on this genomics project. It is a real project, it's done with Oregon Health Sciences University, and he said, fine, let's sequence my cancer tumor, which they did. And as a result, they were able to find that he was misdiagnosed with the wrong kind of cancer. They were using the wrong kind of drugs. And after the readjustment of the medications and the targeting of the treatment, he is now cancer-free for the first time in the last 2 decades. It's that kind of ability to take the insight and change the nature of cancer care that we think is the big breakthrough of big data. The other part of it that we've been discussing is the nature of the job. So the oncologists are not computational scientists per se, but they had to become people who are very, very capable in statistical analytics as well as computational science to be able to apply supercomputer-like technologies to find these new care. And that is the underpinning of some of the educational challenges that we have been talking about this morning. So some of the other technologies that have really helped are on this slide. The storage is incredibly cheap and massively available. Miniaturization, which is how many sensors and other endpoints that collect data, or we talk about the Internet of Things, or machine to machine, that kind of data that feeds into the network is everywhere and incredibly capable as well as inexpensive. And of course, communications technology is pervasive, and even in countries like we heard this morning in Albania, where you're leapfrogging ahead, or in Africa starting with 4G. And we saw, actually, I want to thank the professor who put up our slide about the cost of computing. That was on logarithmic scale, in case you missed that, on the cost reduction of compute performance over the last several decades. It's this intersection that make all of these forces come together that make big data a reality. So it's a big buzzword, everyone talks about it, but it's actually happening. I want to give you a couple of other examples very quickly. The first thing I would say is no one nation, no one economy really has an edge here. This is applicable to anyone. Everybody can go and use the cloud and data and transform industries and change the nature of jobs. Whether we're going to create new ones or change the ones we have, that's a big debate that I think we're having here today. But what's for certain is we're going to have to modify our approach to be able to take advantage of what's happening around us. So give you some data to inform you here. The rate of data is doubling every 2 years. That means that 90% of the data that exists today in the world was produced in the last 2 years. Okay, so on a scale of that, the acceleration, we were having a discussion this morning about what comes after exabytes of data, but the data production is accelerating at an alarming rate, and that is courtesy of our mobile technology, which we all love very, very much. It's 17% of the world's data today, 27% of it by 2020, and that number is going to continue to grow. And this is what's increasing these large amounts of data sets. IoT, I'm very optimistic about IoT. I do actually think this has potential for job creation. It is real. It is another buzzword, but the important point about it is that these sensors are now being deployed everywhere. Everything, every device that used to be an embedded, small, what have you, non-intelligent, non-connected, is becoming intelligent and connected. Teeny computers, as smaller than your thumbnail, are going into everything, and they're connected. So I want to get to a couple more examples here. What I think is the most important, as I said, is the insights. And the first one I want to talk about is the company from Finland that's called Walkbase. There we go. And this company's goal is to improve, through the use of big data, the in-store shopping experience. And they do that by using video surveillance. and monitoring of their customers and how their customers are delighted or not delighted at the point of sale. The data is anonymous, so don't worry about that. No personal information is stored. The analytics are performed using an aggregated data of customers, not the individuals, but customers in the store, and they're able to actually improve their point of retail service to the point that people prefer to shop there than online. So they're actually keeping people in their stores through the use of the analytics data. Spotify, you all know, founded in Sweden. We all know what Spotify does. But what they do to deliver their service is on the back end, they have a big data analytics capability that analyzes billions of logs of data and to determine which song to play next when you're listening to it. And make recommendations. So a recommendation engine that actually intelligently looks at what you've been doing as a subscriber and recommends on a forward-looking basis. The next example, I think, is one of the more powerful things that has occurred using big data. So you probably know, I think everyone in this audience would know what CERN does. Intel's been working with them for a long time. In a project from 2009 to 2013, they started collecting in the high-energy physics area, they collected 150 petabytes of physical data, looking for the missing portion of standard physics. I think we all know it's called Higgs boson, or the Higgs particle. As a result of that, and the Higgs particle, if you don't know, they said there's a missing particle in standard high energy physics in 1964. So for 49 years, they weren't able to know if this was true or valid. It was a hypothesis. And by the use of big data and the collection of it, collection wasn't the important part, the analysis, the insight they got, they were able to actually prove that that hypothesis was true. And in 2013, Peter Higgs and Francois Englert won the Nobel Prize for that observation. And it's that kind of breakthrough in scientific data that we're seeing on the edges of medicine, on the edges of space and weather exploration, on the edges of physics, but they're also being applied to transform more standard industries all around us. And we know that this is going to only increase by 50x over the next 10 years. So just moving forward a little bit and talking about I'm going to skip this because I want, in the interest of time, want to get to some of the things we've been talking about this morning, which is around the legislative frameworks and the education policy and what it means to build an ecosystem for people to be able to do something with this technology. First of all, in technology, what we always say is if it can be done, it will be done, and you cannot know the future today. So the most important thing from the point of view of an emerging technology that's this powerful, that's this transformative across so many parts of the industry, is to create a framework that's flexible and forward-looking, that doesn't prevent us from gaining insights from the data, but appropriately manages the use of the data. And the technology is going to move faster than legislation. That's true in security, which we're not talking about today, but we say you can't legislate your way out of a cyber attack. You cannot also pre-form a legislative framework for how to manage data when you don't actually know what the uses of that data are going to be. So the other piece of that is very important is education policy. And we've had a lot of discussion from the speakers this morning, and I cannot overemphasize how important this is. We are not able to fill the jobs we have created today in the ICT and IT industry because we do not have enough skilled people, because they don't have the right kind of educational background. And it starts in middle school. It starts at grade 10, 11, 12 in the United States, and the equivalents here must stay in math science curriculum. This is the #1 effort from Intel Foundation. It is absolutely a crisis, and it's a global one. It is not just a US one. But the other comment that was made about not having computer science curriculum at university level, that is a huge issue for us. All the computer scientists that we can produce, we can consume right now. So I know that some of these small startups only create 13 jobs, but we create thousands, and I know Ericsson's created thousands, and Vodafone they all require the same skills. We're more boring, I guess, but we need the same kind of people. So I think we are going to have to take immediate measures at every level of education to do something about that and create data-savvy citizens. And finally, on the ecosystem. Chancellor Merkel talked about this morning, and I thought she was very forward-leaning on this in a very important way. One of the reasons we get so much innovation in Silicon Valley is because we have so much money to fund innovation, and it isn't from the government. It's from seed capital. I think that the entrepreneurial environment of seed capital is absolutely critical to helping people to take risks, to try out new ideas. I'm thrilled to learn how much exciting things are going on in Berlin around entrepreneurism. We need the capital market to be available, and the same thing throughout the rest of Europe. So I'll end by saying big data, while it's a buzzword, it's real. And I think it is going to be transformative to multiple segments of the industry and to different markets. And I want to thank Vittorio and Vodafone for actually hosting a discussion where we can talk about what I think is going to end up being a burning issue for all of us, which is getting ourselves educated and our workforce ready for this kind of transformation. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee.